All right. Yeah, I guess we'll just kind of jump in. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm gonna mute. You all are muted. Oh, wait, that's unmute. I always do that. Mute all. Yes. Unmute Kim. Speaker view. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good.
It's
I'm
been. What's
yeah.
that?
I'm at a friend's house in Flagstaff. We've been here for a couple of days, so this
How's
is
that
not
going?
my thing.
I
What?
saw that on your Instagram story. How's that going?
Pretty good, because I mean they quarantined themselves for several weeks. So did we. So it's like
Hmm.
neither of us are symptomatic. So like okay, we're just chilling out really.
Yeah, at a certain
Uh,
point, you have to decide like who you're quarantining with, and like you kind of have to just assume that they're going to be, in your like protected, healthy bubble. And then
Pretty
if
much.
somebody in that bubble gets sick, then you just have to kind of like isolate that person, I guess.
Yeah. So it's kind of
Um,
like it is what it is. I mean, we don't know if we're going to be here for a week or a month. I have no idea. Because I mean,
I think
I've
we
only,
all are in the same position, right?
yeah, yeah. 'Cause I mean, I've only met her a couple of years ago. Like, we've been friends on Facebook or Instagram for like a year, 2 years. We met
Right.
in person finally like a month ago. And so
Oh
now,
wow.
like, hey, we're in your house. So
So
it's pretty
we
interesting.
should we
Yeah.
should back up a little bit and kind of give a broader overview of who you are. So I know you from a workshop 100 billion years ago,
Yeah.
and
That
that's
was like
actually
4 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago. Which I mean, in the lifespan of this corporate entity that I call work, that I call my job, is like it feels like 3 different companies ago. Like
Yeah.
our world has shifted so frequently.
Yeah.
But can you kind of tell maybe the story from maybe that point on when I knew you when you were a killer photographer, but were working.
I was still a caregiver.
Yeah, and so can you kind of tell that story from there to
Yeah. I
here and
was
kind of what you are doing now?
probably Yeah, so like when I met you, I was still doing photography and I was a caregiver for the like elderly and disabled. I basically started both jobs at the same time
Mm.
and I did them both, I was a caregiver for like 10 years. I'm like, whoo, I'm kind of glad I'm not one right now, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
But, as things progressed, it was like photography just kind of kept going. I started making so much more. So I've been full time photography for 2 years now.
That's
Yeah,
great.
like basically 2 years, I think today or tomorrow. So
Wait, really? This is your anniversary?
yeah,
That's exciting.
kind of funny. Yeah, because I remember I ended like the last day in March, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's kind of crazy how much has changed in those 2 years. In that even when I was full time, like I wasn't, I've only been doing van life for since January.
Hmm.
So it's like a lot has changed in those couple of years. Business grew exponentially. 3 years ago, I was making, God, between the two jobs, I was making probably about $30,000. Not a
Hmm.
lot.
Right.
And in the last 2 years, I've made over 6 figures.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so it really just exploded. So and
What do you attribute that to?
a lot of it, I've heard from a few people that, making that huge jump, it's kind of like the universe is like, okay, we're ready, let's do this. And everything just explodes really. But it was just so many years of hard work and figuring out what it is I want to do. And I know a lot of people are doing this by themselves, and I did my business, I was married and everything, but
Hmm.
I did my business basically just by myself. There was a lot of trial and error that I had to teach myself, but I finally brought my husband into the mix, and that definitely helped a lot. So having
In
some kind of
what way?
partner,
Just
like
having a second set of hands?
yeah, like he takes care of like all the finances and keeping everything in order. I mean, yeah, I have 17 hats, but he does all the financial stuff for me now.
Hmm.
Like, okay, payments are coming in and at this time, it's going to be this much and stuff. And he does now my SEO. and he helps like with my blogs. He does like all my advertising and everything. So it's like
That's awesome.
that definitely helped because I'm like, I'm only one person. I can't do everything by myself. So
And
it's
this
like,
job kind of demands that you do, right? Like
yeah.
we're two, well, we're three people now, but Milo doesn't really pose weight yet. We're two people. When we've been two people since the beginning, and it still feels like, man, I don't know how we do it with just two hands. I'm always feeling like we need like six people. I need a
Oh yeah.
dedicated person just to do like the finances. I need a dedicated person just to do my social media and my blogging. And then maybe I'll have time to go shoot.
Yeah, I know. It's like people think, oh, you're a photographer. Like all you do is photograph and beautiful people and all these amazing locations. I'm like, that's literally 10% of the time.
Hmm.
It's like there's so much more that goes into it. It's like, you got to make it so people see you. So you got to do
For
all
sure.
your advertising and marketing. It's like you have to make sure that you have money saved up for taxes. So you're not like screaming your head off when you're like, oh shit, I owe the government like $5,000 now.
Yeah.
It's There's so much that goes into it, and I was just barely floating, really, like before Jesse came involved with it, and now it's like skyrocketing.
Yeah, that's definitely a story that I hear all the time from photographers. Just this idea of like, if only I could fill in the blank here. I know I have the skill set or the client base or whatever to move to the next level. And for some people, it's figuring out what the hell a CRM is and having software take over. For some people, it is having like a partner come on board.
Mhm.
But we're getting a little off topic. This is all super interesting. I do want to get, because we still, from outside perspective, we don't know who the hell you are.
Yeah.
So where was this job that or this photography business that you were, and then how did that transition? You used the word van life. How did
Well,
you? Where
I
were
was
you, and
based
where are you
out of,
now?
I don't know if you can read it, Port Angeles. So I'm from Washington, like in the far northwest corner, like two and a
Right.
half hours from Seattle.
Yeah.
So it's like I basically grew up until January. My entire life I lived basically in Port Angeles in the same
Hmm.
2 mile radius. And so I was basically at the base of the Olympic National Park. And it took many years. I think I've been in business for 11 years now.
Hmm.
So it wasn't
We started
until,
the same year, I think.
yeah, probably like it seemed like a lot of people joined in that year. But
Hmm.
it took me about 8 years before I started doing destination weddings.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely like I've been in Washington and I slowly have made my way around, I guess I could say the earth, because I have done Iceland and I'm going hopefully back to Iceland, if all this crap goes
Yeah.
away.
Hmm.
But
If
it's definitely
airplanes
like
exist
it's
soon.
yeah, and the travel ban gets lifted, then I'll definitely be a lot more international traveling. It took a long time to get there for people to
Yeah.
see who I was. So, but yeah, I started out in Port Angeles. I did not listen to what anyone said about, oh, you need to move to the big city to get, all the weddings that you want. Like, no, my niche is elopements in national parks. And
Right.
I grew up in a national park. I know everything about it. And so that's like why I wanted to do van life. So I could get to these national parks all over the country, mostly the Western United States, and get to know them in and out like I know the Olympics. And so I can basically become like an expert in all these different places. So people will be like, oh, we want to get married in Yosemite. Well, okay, I've shot in Yosemite like 5 times. I've spent,
Hmm.
many weeks there, getting to know all these places. That's why we ended up doing van life.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. So expanding outside of Washington.
So
So,
you brought up something really interesting, which I think is something that a lot of people probably perked up who are listening live. So, we're based in Northern Michigan, and we probably talked about this when we met up out west with you, but your setup is almost identical to how we are. We live in, this is Michigan. This is Detroit. We live
mhm.
all the way up here. We're 5 hours from Detroit, like about 2.5 hours from Grand Rapids, and we live at essentially the base of a national lake shore, which is not it's within the same like strata of a national park. So for us, a lot of the people that photograph around this area spend a lot of their time traveling, about 20 or 30 to 45 minutes northwest of here, and they go out to the National Lakeshore and they photograph up in those areas.
Yeah.
And to live in a small town that is, hours and hours from a major metropolitan area, but it is also at the base and the kind of the gateway to some like absolutely astronomically beautiful natural areas, is an interesting place to be. And it's interesting to me that we're both kind of in that same position, like you with the Olympic National Park and us with Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. And there's a ton of people that for us that aspire to live up, up north. They live in Detroit, they live in Grand Rapids, and they vacation up here, or they spend a lot of time up here. But there are hardships living in a small town and in a town with the population size that we have. I don't want to like overstate the hardships, but we don't have like public transportation. We don't have, galleries or access to like, international flights out of here. So how has it been transitioning from that kind of like stay in one place and going back and forth to this like beautiful national park to being on the road full time and being in kind of like you're in your comfort zone in your van, which we still need to talk about who that is. But then also, like, yeah, you want to be kind of an expert in all these locations, but do you feel that you're able to appropriately or kind of expertly know each of these locations the same way that you knew the Olympic?
Can you like repeat that last part? Like, I think my
Yeah.
internet is cutting out a little bit.
No problem. I also asked like what sounded like a 45-minute question. Um,
And I was like,
so,
what?
so you used to live in Port Angeles and go out to Olympic, and that's like your backyard, right? So
Yeah,
you
it's like
spent,
45. It was 45 minutes from my house to the top of Hurricane Ridge.
which I have been with you, and my God, stunning.
Yeah,
I still need to trick you to bring your van here so I can show you like Sleeping Bear Dunes. It's pretty epic.
we'll get
Um,
there.
so transitioning from like being in one place and going to a place that you know very, very well to kind of being on the road and trying to understand all of these new locations, do you feel like you can pull into a new place and really like capture its essence in the same way that you can with knowing Olympics so well?
Well, I think I can mostly because, and this is true of any destination wedding I've ever had or session,
Hmm.
I will get there 2 days before if I have to and scout out and just
Yeah.
be basically a tourist and just find all the places, use. I have so many different apps like All Trails and stuff like that. Like go and like hiking in the area, go exploring these areas, find something that is maybe a little bit off the beaten path without, leave no trace, obviously. But it's
Hmm.
just something that, like, if I were to get a session right now for, like, say, Big Bend, I've never been there in Texas, but I would probably go there, before then and scout out, be like, okay, do some Google searching, do the Google images, do the Google Earth, do everything you possibly can to learn about that location before you get there. And
Yeah.
then, like, once you get there, that's like, okay, this is a little bit easier now. It's like, okay, I like this place. Like, oh, this is really cool. Oh, the light's amazing here. And, there's apps you can use to find out, like, where the sun is going to set. So you're like, oh, this is the most amazing view, but oh, the sun sets way the fuck over there. So that's not going to work. So it's like
Interesting.
figuring out before you get there everything that you could possibly know to be prepared for the day of the session. So
That's
it's like,
fascinating because that's the kind of stuff that we do. I feel like we do that. I don't want to say inherently, but like I don't even have to think about where I'm going to be because
mhm.
I know the areas that I'm photographing so well that I'm just like, oh, I would never plan a shoot at that location in the summer uh, after 4 o'clock or before 9:30 p.m. or something. Like there are some locations up here because we're so far north. What's the latitude of uh, like Hurricane Ridge, for
Port
example?
Angeles.
Yeah, do you
I
know?
want to say it's on the 48th parallel.
Okay, cool.
It's
So
pretty
you're
high north.
Yeah, we're Sleeping Bear I think is probably like 40. I know 45 is like a dividing line right here. There's like some of the cities just a bit north of us are at 45, and I think Sleeping Bear is a no, I don't know. We're about 45, 46, something like that. So about the same. So do you also get the like insanely late summer nights where you have
Mm-hmm.
like sun until like 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning.
It is. It's a
Beautiful.
lot of fun, but I mean, I do love that, when it's warm and we can enjoy ourselves. And everyone's like, oh, I hate winter. It's dark at like 5 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, but winter light is also super gorgeous
Yeah.
in its own aspect. And plus, hey, I'm done by 5 o'clock. I can spend the rest of the day blogging or editing rather
For
than
sure.
getting home at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's
Yeah,
like just
I'll
sleep.
admit there are some like I lament the sun going down early when the sun when it's the middle of winter, but when autumn starts to roll around, I don't hate ending my shoots by like 6 or 7 instead of like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
There are times when you're like, it's kind of just nice to be like I loved my shoot, I loved my couples, I love my subjects, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to be done, put those cards into the server, get everything backed up and ready to edit, and it's like there's still time to like make dinner.
Yeah, exactly. There's places in Washington that I almost refuse to shoot in the summertime
Oh,
because it's
really?
like whole rainforest. Yeah, it'd have to be actual sunset or sunrise around that time before I would shoot there because I have done sessions. One of the weirdest sessions I ever had was in the whole rainforest in July at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was a bright ass sunny day. Everything was
Hmm.
neon green. She was pasty ass white with black hair. He was Indian. So it
Oh,
was
wow.
like the weirdest tones I've ever seen in my life. So I'm like, never shooting in this area ever again between like June and like September, unless it's like way in the evening. So I'm like, no one wants to look like the Jolly Green Giant. So
No,
it's like,
well, maybe somebody might have that as like a big desire in life. I don't know. I'm not sitting here about to judge people. I will say there's something nice about so one thing that Brooke and I have talked about a lot is because when we got started, one of our first big things was high school seniors, which is
mhm,
inherently a volume-based business. I can't get away shooting 20. Well, now I probably can, but I can't. I couldn't in the beginning get away making a living shooting like 20 seniors a year. So when we were really going strong, we were shooting, somewhere north of 200 a year, and that
yeah.
means that you have to, if you're stacking them in like that, you have to get your shoots done at 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, whenever you can fit them in.
Oh yeah.
And so that was a
Oh yeah.
really like kind of stress test and like training years for learning. We just say now I can shoot at anything. I don't care. You want to shoot it? Like, yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'll give you the rundown, and I'll be like, okay, here's the best time to shoot in that location. If you want this like pristine, like I have a very vivid memory of last summer sitting on Sleeping Bear Dunes at like 9:45, 9:50 at night. The sun is like past the horizon. We've been there for 15 minutes past sunset, and I'm with like mom and her daughter, a senior, and it's just this like beautiful light. We've got like the pop-up changing room over here. She just got done, or she's about to pop into her last outfit, and I'm like, "Yo, like we can. If you're worried about getting back to the car on time, we can call it. But I mean, I kind of just want to sit here and enjoy this moment for a little while. I guarantee you we have what we need, but do you guys want to just not do that last outfit and just relax?" And they did. We just sat there for like another 10, 15 minutes and just talked as we watched the sunset. And
Mhm.
that lighting is insane. That lighting is like uh, you, as a photographer, it's what you dream of.
Mhm.
But you know what? I've also been there at, I don't want to say high noon, but I've been there in, bright sun where if you're doing things wrong, you've got like raccoon eye shadow and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
But
Oh for sure.
I can make that work now because I had
Oh yeah.
to, because I spent so many hours, so many sessions, uh, really finding my understanding of light that allows me to shoot, like literally shoot at anything. I can pop into any
Mhm.
random city in the country and be like, we're gonna pull this off right now.
Yeah. I've definitely like shot in all different kinds. I think the only reason like I don't like that one is just because I can't it's just like one weird spot that I've ever shot at. I'm like, there's literally any shade that there is just lime green. But yeah, I
Oh, don't
love
worry.
harsh light,
I
like
have my own,
especially during like stuff.
During what, sorry?
During like in the city is my favorite. Harsh
Oh
light
yeah,
in the
for
city,
sure.
like noon, bring it on. I love that
Yep.
stuff.
Oh, reflected
It's like
light,
I hardly ever
diffused
get
light.
to
Yeah.
shoot in the city.
I know, I feel
Yeah.
the same way. So when we went to Grand Rapids, so I don't know if we've talked that much about the actual photo walks that we were doing. We still have plans to, but a lot of
Mhm.
them are getting kind of changed over to this model for now, until we are actually allowed to, interact with the other human beings again. But we have stuff scheduled for Chicago, Grand Rapids, North
Nice.
Carolina, Florida, and it's really cool. And I love the idea of rolling into a city that I don't get to shoot very often. And living in such a natural area, our work is obviously initially known for like our greens and our natural environments. But yeah, there's something really refreshing about like, hey, I live in a van, and you can hire me to go to national parks, but also like this city's dope.
Yeah, like I can literally go anywhere. Like if I have, I have to have enough time, obviously, to travel from place to place.
Yeah,
But, as long as I can travel from place to place, I will shoot fucking anywhere in the
that's
country.
awesome.
Yeah. So
How
it's
does
like
it
if I
feel?
were to somehow randomly get a shoot like up where you guys are, yeah, I'd probably be there in about a week.
That's crazy.
Hmm.
That's so fun. Does that feel really uh like freeing, or what is that feeling of being like, instead of being part of like the Olympic Peninsula, you're just like Kim in the world?
Well, it's a little weird right now, obviously. So, I mean, we've only
Yeah,
been,
true.
like I said, we've only been in the van since the end of January. So,
Yeah,
but we did have end of January and all of February, which was a lot of fun. And it was just like, it was so freeing and just like seeing so many new places, and not being, when you're in a van that's like 5,000 pounds, you are forced to drive slower, and it's also
interesting.
just the mentality of being in that life that, we get there when we get there.
Hmm.
It's kind of nice feeling like we can slow down rather than like go, 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 go. And so we find all these really amazing places that, I never would have known if I was like, oh, I need to get from here to here in like 2 hours for a photo shoot. But somewhere between point A and point B, there's some place that I've never seen before
Yeah,
that is just epic and would have been like really amazing for that photo shoot. But no, we're gonna go to where they want to do the shoot. Basically, does that make sense? That being
yeah,
able to
totally.
take our time to get to where we're gonna have our photo shoot, we can find things along the way that might be really gorgeous for the photo shoot rather than being in
Yeah.
one spot.
So one thing that I started practicing a couple years ago was, my drive out. I joke that my commute is between Traverse City and the lake. So I
Mhm.
drive depending on the location, because it's a pretty big. It's the lake shore, right? So it's literally the
Yeah.
coastline. So it's anywhere from like 25 minutes to like 45 minutes, and that's where I listen to podcasts. That's where I listen to music. But I've also gotten in the habit over the past few years of not getting there like right on time. I try to get there, or I try to leave quite early to allow myself to, either on the way there or on the way back, just meander, just be like, oh, I'm going to take this
Yeah.
route that I've never been before. There might be something incredible. There might not be. It might be just like that gas station that you went to last week that you didn't realize was down there,
Yeah.
and it's kind of creepy, and you don't really want to buy water there because you don't know how long it's been.
Yeah.
Um, but so many times I've found myself in this just like incredible, like just off the beaten path trail, and I just take a picture with my iPhone, to get a GPS tag on it, and I have a folder on my
Mhm.
iPhone called Scouting. And then there's this really cool thing where if you click on a photo that's in an album and you swipe up, it'll give you a map of all of the photos with their GPS pins in that space,
Yeah.
and then I use that to kind of go back and do like a scouting report. But it's
Mhm.
the thing that I've been talking about a lot, which is just like allowing yourself to be inspired, allowing yourself the luxury of, I literally find myself, so I don't have it on me, it's in the other room, but I have my little like silver pocket camera, my little Fuji X100, that I carry everywhere. And I do the same thing with just like random places downtown, where I'll just be like, I really like that pocket of light, and I will photograph it. It doesn't matter if there's no subject for it. It doesn't matter if I've done it 1,000 times. If I'm inspired by it, I hit it every single time. And there's something really nice about allowing yourself that luxury of like constant inspiration. And I think for you, it's even more magnified, because for me, it's this tiny little pocket of light at this like coffee shop that I spend way too much time at. And for you, it's like, oh, look at that national park. Do you want to go to that national park instead of not going to that national park? That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's definitely like as much as we can, like we try and take like, oh, the scenic view or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
or just a random pull off that, most people just drive right on past. Like there was one, I think it's like an hour north of Moab or something like that. And we're like, oh, let's just take this for shits and giggles. And I was like completely fucking blown away by how gorgeous this spot was. And I'm like, and we almost just drove right past it. And it was like, the road was just like kind of curving down into the canyon, and it like the canyon was coming up on either side, and I was just like, I gotta do a shoot here someday. Like, oh my God, this place is amazing. And it's not in actual Moab. It's not in actual Canyonlands or Arches or something like that. But it's one of those spots that if you are there and you do your research and you're there at the right time, it'll just be like one of those shoots that makes you want to cry because it's so fucking gorgeous.
That's cool. So that kind of, we've come a long way from the question, but you've answered this question in a way that I kind of wasn't expecting. So the question, this is not the actual question we're asking, but the question asked a couple questions ago was like, how do you be as much of an expert in a new location that you've essentially never been before as you were an expert in the Olympic? And the answer is taking your time, being slow and methodical, and essentially just keeping your eyes open, right?
And researching. I mean, there's so much that you can learn about a location by not even have been there. Mm-hmm. Like I said, all the Google images and see on Pinterest or God, there's so many apps that I use. I love Google Earth. I will literally sit there for like an hour and a half just like researching one location and like moving a little bit at a time, like, oh, let's see it from the 3D view and stuff. So just like research the shit out of a place before you
Sammy?
get there. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
I got both my boys in here, so.
Oh, good. How is van life with pups? Because they're not small doggies.
Yeah, no, Bauer's, he's a golden retriever. He's like 80, 90 pounds. It's not bad because, I like to say that we don't live in our van. We live out of our van.
Oh,
we just sleep and eat there, but, most of the time we are outside of it doing something. Like we go park in a place like some BLM land down in southern Utah. And
so we live in the eastern side of the country. Explain BLM. I know what it is, but can you explain it for others?
It's the Bureau of Land Management. It's free land, basically, that the government just has out there. And there's a lot of it in Utah and Arizona and just Nevada and everywhere. You have to find it. Some of them are on like Forest Service roads in the middle of fucking nowhere. Right. And most of them don't have like service, but some do. So you get pretty lucky there. But
are they pretty off the beaten path? They're like pretty far away from everything?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah. Like the place that we stayed at for about almost a week, it was called Valley of the Gods. And it was down southern Utah, and we just happened to find it like the year prior. Like, oh, this looks cool. Let's, go see it. And you can stay there for like 2 weeks at a time.
Wow.
Most places, yeah. It's That's pretty incredible. Cool.
Utah has the coolest names for its parks and its like locations. Valley of the Gods. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, but the funny thing is that it's right outside of a town called Mexican Hat.
Whoa, that's less cool. Like that's a really weird.
Yeah, what? There's a lot of weird names down in the South area, especially like around the native things.
I want to go to a town called like Tennis Shoe or something, just like a very specific type of clothing as the name of your town. Yeah, some like third grader got to get the naming rights for that town.
Like, I know it's not probably a real place, but if it is, I'd like to go to Schitt's Creek. So.
Oh, that's from that TV show, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That show's hilarious though. But yeah,
I've tried
definitely.
it.
What?
I tried it. I wanna like it. I've heard I need to stick it out, and maybe with this quarantine, I'll get desperate and try it again. But it felt a
Yeah.
lot like this is an appropriate segue for you. It felt like a lot like an old Ben Stiller movie where like everything is constantly going wrong, and I just end up feeling guilty and bad for everybody. Um, and that's a great transition because the name of your van is
The Walter Mitty.
right, right. So for those that didn't know, we'll have to make sure. I want to get some pictures of Walter up on the group so people can get a sense of where you live. Because that is a beautiful,
Pretty much, yeah.
beautiful home on
I can.
wheels.
I'm trying to think here. Yeah, that is our home. Like we live in the van. It's full time. We
Yeah,
own the thing. It's because we sold our house. We sold
right.
almost all of our things, and we bought this van. And so it's, oh my gosh, it was $30,000 for the van, but it was also a lot newer. It only had like 6,000 miles on it.
Oh
And
wow.
then we got it outfitted, and that was about another 50 some thousand.
Hmm.
So like that was our whole wad from selling the house basically. But
Right,
we own our van, no one can take it away from us or
right.
anything. So,
That's so
and
cool.
and it's pretty cheap to live in that. Like it all depends on like how much traveling you do really.
Right.
So it's like, we're staying at a friend's house for, a week at a time. Okay, so we didn't have to pay for gas, for a week. So that
Hmm.
saves us, a lot of money, and like the food and stuff like that. So it's really just kind of the initial cost is a lot to get into it, but then once you're into it, it's pretty cheap. Like our
Right.
heating bill was like $12 for a month and a half.
Wow. Wait, how was that?
Propane.
Propane or something? Twelve
Hmm.
dollars.
Yeah, that's
I
our
can I,
heating, and that's our like stove. Like we have a
I
stove
could
top.
swing that. I could swing
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Is there
12 bucks.
anything? Is there anything about living in this in Walter that you were like not expecting to be either like incredible or like frustrating?
Well, our toilet did break, so that makes it a whole lot more fun.
Right.
And we had only had it like it's a dry flush, so it gets like 17 uses per unit, and we only got like 10 out of the first one before it broke.
Oh
So
wow.
we're like, fuck. So we literally just got,
17. You have to count your poops.
huh?
You have to count your poops. You have 17 poops before you have to buy a new toilet.
Ish. But I mean, like we find there's so many places to go basically out in the
Yeah.
middle. Like, there's rest stops. We stop at KOAs and stuff like that. There's,
Hmm.
grocery stores and stuff. So there's always a place to go. But yeah, like out in that BLM land, when there is no bathroom whatsoever, it broke like right around that time.
Oh, that
So
sucks.
yeah, so scoop it.
So
Yeah,
Jesse is
it's
doing
hilarious.
woodworking on the road as well, right?
Yep.
How is that going? So
Uh,
explain a little bit about what Jesse does.
So Jesse's my husband. He has been a woodworker for a while now. He used to make like, desks and, cabinets and all that kind of stuff. But now he couldn't do that on the road. So now he makes jewelry, basically. And I think I have some I could show
Yeah. No, seriously, show 'em off.
you. Cool. There goes my chair. Okay. All right. So recently we stayed at this place called Lone Rock, which is in Utah, like right across the border, basically. And we managed to stay there for 3 days before they kicked us out, just because of
Hmm.
the virus and stuff. But in that time, it was really warm. I think it was like almost 70 degrees. And so he busted out all his table stuff, and he started making like the wood pieces. So he makes the wood pieces. I put like the stuff on it, like the chains and the beads. So like,
Well, that's beautiful.
yeah, it's so fucking light too. Like you would not think it was light.
Is that just
So
wood?
it's just wood, and he puts
Oh
like
wow,
oil on it to bring out the gorgeous, details of it.
that's
So
stunning.
like, it's like
Very
like
cool.
necklaces, earrings, rings, stuff like that. Yeah, it's what he's been doing for like
Oh,
a couple
pretty.
years. Oh,
So
good.
that's
Can you take power? Or Aunt Sammy, probably.
is that Jesse?
Yeah.
Hi, Jesse.
So yeah, basically that's been his business for about eight-ish months, four
Very
months. I
cool.
can't even remember. Like I lost count. This is actually, you can see it's actually kind of blue.
Oh wow, that's
It's gonna
just
be a
wood
pair of
still.
earrings. Yeah, it's still wood. Like I think it was
Dang.
dyed or that's something like that. So this is gonna be like a pair of earrings. So like, so he's making jewelry and he's selling that, and so that helps, with paying the bills and whatnot. And then whatever I'm bringing in, that's extra mostly.
That's
So
great.
that's how we managed to do, be on the road and not go crazy. It's like
Yeah.
that's what he's passionate about, and I'm doing the photography. But like when he can't do that because it has to be nice weather, he doesn't want to be around a lot of people because it's kind of loud and stuff.
Hmm.
So he can't do that quite as much yet, just because it was so cold. But now it's the virus, so once things calm down, he's gonna be making so much fucking jewelry. We're not gonna have like anywhere to put it. So
Well, you don't want to store it. You want to sell it.
exactly, yeah. So he's gonna get an Etsy and like a website going on soon. But
Cool.
until that happens, he's just helping me with my website stuff exponentially, basically.
Well, it's always interesting to see how people transition between businesses because there's so many things that you're obviously learning building Kim Butler photo that can easily be can relate back to, was it it's not Bauer Woodworks, is it? What is it?
Butler.
Butler, duh.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
your last name. Why did I was thinking it was named after your dog. Um,
Oh, that's Bauer, our dog.
yeah,
No,
it'll
but
be
no,
really
he
interesting to see
is
the
like the
transition.
Butler. Yeah, he is the Butler's Wood Shop on
Oh, those are
Instagram.
fun. Yeah, I think I tagged you in the Instagram story. So if people haven't seen it, it is up. That should still be up on the Instagram story.
Yeah,
But I'll also link to it in the call it the show notes for
yeah.
this.
And the van life, the wandering Walter.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
How many is that all? You only have the 3 Instagrams?
I had a fourth one for the dogs, but that one pretty much has just died.
Yeah,
I don't focus on that one at all.
yeah,
So like,
yeah. I have too many, and I'm trying to limit them. But new projects here and there. Uh, Kim, is there any other thing you want to talk about? Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything you got going
I
on
mean,
you want to share?
van life is a lot of fun, but it takes someone who is patient, because there's a lot of asshole drivers out there. I
Hmm.
used to have a lead foot, so now it's like being forced to drive slow. It's definitely
Interesting.
a different type of lifestyle. And only because of what we're going through right now, it's harder than it normally is. But if we weren't having the virus right now, it would be like we'd probably be doing this. I'd be like out on the road right now,
For
just
sure. Well, I
using my
think when we
hotspot or
first,
something.
I think when we first talked, our plan was to talk from the van so we could show it off. But then, a virus
Yeah,
happened.
a little bit. So yeah, we're definitely trying to stay indoors, but like we can totally do another one in like a couple of months or something like that, and we could be like someplace really cool, and like I could show you off like, hey, this is our van
Yeah,
and this is where we're at, and I'm
totally.
still booking weddings and stuff from
Yeah.
this
So
place.
that'll be really interesting. That's a good point. Like, so first of all, this has been out of necessity building these calls because I just get stir crazy and I like seeing other human beings and
Yeah,
not pretending like I'm the last person on earth. But they're so much fun, and it's nice because you and I right now are just as close physically as everybody else in this call. A lot of these people are based in northern Michigan, and so it's a really good excuse to just see people that you don't get to see very frequently. So I don't know
mm-hmm.
what the future is going to be like after we all clean up our act and stop being infected by viruses. But
Yeah,
so definitely something to revisit, especially as things start to kind of trend towards positive, to kind of check in with people and see, how are your bookings going? Is your world kind of coming back around? Have you lost work? Do you think you've gained work because people are like, excited to celebrate now? And we don't have those answers now, but it'll be really interesting to kind of check in kind of the sentiment going forward. And I wanted to bring Josh Hartman in. He's one of the other guys listening right here. We're talking with him on Friday, and Josh he's in Michigan right now, but he was touring all over in like a little I don't want to call it little, but in what's her name? Josh, isn't she a lady?
Very little, but Lady the Scamp. Yeah.
So you guys should know each other. You guys, I feel like you should know each other because you're both kind of traveling photographers.
I had so many connections to what you were saying, Kim, about especially driving slow, because when I drive my setup over like 60, sometimes it just like shudders. So like I have to actually drive slow, and also just like the tiny living. And actually when I did this years ago, I had a different setup, and I was living on the road for 2 years, and I drove from Florida to Olympic National Park in 4 days, and that was my first shoot on the road. So and we camped right near the Hoh Rainforest, so got to know that area. It's a beautiful area.
That's 4 days. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's like, that hurts my ass thinking of that. So long.
Well, the nice thing is you can just pull over, at a rest stop. You have your everything you need with you. It's really, if you do need to hit it and like be efficient, it's the best setup. You don't have to check into hotels or anything. Yeah. In fact, we kind of did a similar haul when we heard about, we were in Utah, and the quarantine was really like, people were, we were kind of realizing that we need to take this seriously and find a place to park. And then we started to hear about them closing borders and stuff. So we jet lined it up to Michigan, like, in just like as little time as possible.
How long was that drive?
Well, I stopped for a shoot in Denver, but from Denver to here, it was 20 hours, and we did that. We ended up kind of taking it easy, 3 days, so it wasn't too ambitious.
Is it illegal to sleep in the back of the camper while somebody's driving?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to do it. It's
so fun.
It's the craziest thing. Like, actually, Nicole stayed back there when I was going really slow, but I stayed back in my old setup, and it just like everything's shaking. It's crazy.
Is it like being on a boat, or is it worse?
It's worse.
It's way worse.
It's so fun.
Yeah. So you really want to be in like car mode when it's moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And it's funny. I wanted a van. I wasn't able to get the loan out for the van. I think my plan though is to sell my current setup, and get a van and do something similar to what you did, Kim, and just renovate it. So.
Yeah. Like there's a guy in Bend, Oregon. He did it for us, and it only took him like 2 months, which is amazing considering a lot of van places now, because it's becoming more popular. Let me back up a little bit. So this guy, love him and his fiance. They're amazing people. He managed to get it done in 2 months. Everything was completely custom to what we wanted, and like it was cheaper, basically. Like it was, still about $53,000. But if you were to go with like one of the bigger companies, like the one,
like Sportsville.
Yeah, like in Colorado, it's like, you have to choose between like 3 different like layouts. It'll take about 6 months before we can even get started on it. Whoa. And it's gonna be $100,000. So it's like we lucked out. So good.
I feel like the whole idea like came from, hey, I'm not gonna live by the kind of traditional norm, so I'm just gonna buy this thing, fix it up, and then get going. And then of course industry takes over, and they're like, well, but we could monetize this. We could fit it into a mold and make this like one of the options for living, as opposed to making it this like kind of revolutionary sort of like chaotic thing.
Yeah. So like this is just a front view of it.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So that was nice. Like outside Monument Valley.
Photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely try to get.
I was just in that area too. It's so crazy. You talk about Moab. I just went there for a mountain unicycle festival, and then they started shutting down everything. But yeah, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah, like
spoilers,
yesterday.
Josh. Don't talk about unicycles yet. We gotta talk about that on Friday. We gotta tease people and save it.
But yeah, yesterday, because I'm staying with a photographer friend, like I said, and we're in Flagstaff, but she shoots primarily in Sedona. She's got a Jeep, so we went like off-roading yesterday, just 3 of us for like 3 hours, and went up to like crazy amazing views and everything. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. So like we're still doing the social distancing, but we're still like exploring places. Like, oh, I had no idea to get to this one location was like the most crazy fucking drive of my entire life. You know, it's like, okay, that's good to know. So if I ever do book something here, I am more well aware. So it's like, it's easier to book stuff if you've already been there. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Same with like Iceland.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Kim, is there anything else you want to talk about before we kind of call it?
No, I mean, if there's any questions you got for me, I'm just.
I can. How about this? I could. Oh, did anybody? If anybody has any, I'm gonna go back to grid. I'm talking over myself. Going back to grid. If anybody has any questions, raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll call it.
I have
Josh.
a question. Can you post some pictures of the inside of your van as well? Because I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I took like a short little like 30-second video or something like that for like when we initially got the van. I could post that in the group.
That'd be great.
And where are you?
Like it's all messy right now with all our stuff.
And where are you planning to go next? Are you planning any trips after this? Well, I mean, obviously April's a wash, but
yeah. So I mean, it kind of depends, you know, once things start to open up again. But as of right now, I still have like my next photo shoot that I have on the books is in Joshua Tree at the end of May. So it's like, other than that, we're just trying to find places to survive, really.
For sure.
You know, everything's close. But once all this shit
crazy
is done, I'm like, I want to finally get back to Iceland. So
yeah,
I have sessions there in September, but I'm like, I just hope and pray I can get there. So yeah.
It's so funny because all the locations that you're sharing, like I've been to them and they also speak to me. Like Joshua Tree, Sedona. I love Iceland. I shot out there, but so we should hang out.
I want to go.
Yeah. Where are you now?
Once you want to go? Yeah.
Where are you now?
Come on, Mike. Oh, I'm in Northern Michigan. I just got back.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like, we have plans to maybe next year get to Michigan.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So like, we want to see you guys.
For sure. And when we're legally allowed to hang out, we will.
Yeah, legally able to hang out.
So Kim, one of the like stretch goals of this group is if we can kind of build the visibility of this group and we can get people in multiple markets to kind of like join in and kind of share this idea. My goal, what I was starting to do, this our 3rd season that launched about the time that quarantine hit, was basically trying to hit into these new markets, build little photo communities in those areas, or building these photo walks in those areas, so that as a community, any of us can pop to like any location and find a group of people to shoot with. So it would just be incredible to have you know, if we can get the resources behind it, if we can get people that are interested in traveling, like, oh, where are Kim and Josh? Let's just go hang out with them, and they can show us where all the beautiful stuff is.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's definitely some places that I really want to explore, even still down here in Arizona, before it gets, you know, melting you hot, basically. But yeah, that'd be amazing to do once all this quarantine shit is done, to set up like, oh, hey, you know, we're going to be in, you know, fuck if I know, like Flagstaff or, you know, Page or something like that, Arizona, we're going to be here and like, let's go do a photo walk and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some really cool like ghost towns I want to go check out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, I don't have anything else for you. We good?
I think we're good.
All right. Oh, well, Kim, if you have Wi-Fi, you're always welcome. Well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to use your data on us, But if you have Wi-Fi, you're always welcome to join. We're doing these, as of right now, it's basically going to be Tuesdays at noon and Fridays at 8. And I'm always looking for new friends to bring in and interview. So if you've got anybody you think that would be interesting for the community to hear from, send me Instagram accounts or just DM me or something.
Yeah,
Sound
I
good?
think Melinda had a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, that's what that means.
Oh, there's a button for that. So, do any of you know any like food photographers in the area, or people that, I mean, probably do wedding photography too, but do food photography on the side?
In Northern Michigan?
Yeah.
Tracy Grant does quite a bit of food. She does stuff for what is it, Northern Express, or one of the physical like paper magazines in the area. Other than that, I don't know anybody who does like a lot of food. We've done some stuff for like the pie company and kind of more like lifestyle food stuff. But food is such a niche market where you need to know like the right type of nail polish to put on strawberries to make them look like they're real food. I don't know. I've had clients that we've done portrait work for end up wanting food, and I just go, as long as you're not looking for me to spray a certain weird caustic chemical on something to make it look right, we can talk.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's what I do. I know the guy that would photograph things for Alliance, and there wasn't any, like weird spray chemicals or anything like that.
Gotcha.
That's what I mean. I'd like if I could to kind of follow someone around that does that.
Oh, gotcha. Do you know Tara Bare Necessities?
Mm-mm.
She is, I don't think she would call herself a food photographer. She's in this group, but she does like, I'm trying to she does these like ridiculously like just colorful food photos. They're like,
she
they're
does a good job.
stunning. It's really hard. It's hard to show a camera on a webcam, especially when the background's all white.
Cool.
I'll put a link to this in the show notes as well, because yeah, it's something to look at for sure. It's beautiful. Again, I doubt she would I don't think she calls herself a like food photographer, because again, that's a very like niche market. But she's like you, interested in food or works in food, and then she photographs them. Do we lose you? I think we lost Melinda. Bye,
Yeah,
bye, Melinda.
She looks frozen.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna call it.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Well,
We can talk about other things if people have things they want to say, but otherwise,
Josh and I need to like friend request each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys will get along.
Cool. Yeah. Anyone wants friend request, go ahead. Ask any questions through Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm good to answer whatever you guys want to know.
Cool. All right, guys. Have a good. Oh, thank you for getting on so early, Kim. What's it like 9:30?
It was like 9 o'clock here. Which is fine. I woke up at like 6:30 because
I tried to get up at 5 this morning and it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, it's just because the room that we're staying, their guest room, it has like practically no curtains, so it's great. So.
All right, guys.
Cool.
Thank
Have a good
you.
one. Thank you. See you guys.